Which word of the day? Today's word is blood rage, verb. In the tabletop RPG Pathfinder, to blood rage is to unleash fearful carnage using magical bloodlines and combat skills. Blood Ragers are a hybrid class of barbarian and sorcerer. Like sorcerers, Blood Ragers' veins surge with arcane power. While sorcerers use this power for spellcasting, Blood Ragers enter an altered state in which their bloodline becomes manifest, where the echoes of their strange ancestry lash out with devastating power. In these states, Blood Ragers can cast some arcane spells instinctively. The Blood Ragers' magic is as fast, violent, and seemingly unstoppable as their physical prowess. And that's the class I played when I played Pathfinder.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Spellworders, welcome back to another episode of Words of the Witches. It feels like forever. I don't know. I've been going through a lot lately in my personal life. And I just had the convention in LA, so I've been very busy. But I'm excited to get back into another Charmed book. This one is going to be Inherit the Witch. This will be the last book episode for December. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. So there will be no book Words of the Witches episode until probably mid-January, but I'm not abandoning you. Stuff will still be coming out. I have bonus episodes planned. So on December 31st, New Year's Eve, we will have a P3 bonus episode with Janine. And then on January 7th will be my bonus episode where I interview Michael Bailey Smith, who played Balthazar and Jax and Grimlock and the Source on Charmed. So we have a really great Charmed alum. I have a wonderful opportunity to talk to him and meet him, and yeah, you guys can hear all that. Stuff will still be coming out. Look forward to that. Now, we'll get on with this episode. So this is Words of the Witches, episode 24, book 23, Inherit the Witch. With me today is Joanna Mung. Hello, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. This is such an honor to be here.
I'm so glad because we met through the Facebook groups, I believe, first. At least that's where I first started seeing you. How did you come to know Charmed, and what's your relationship with Charmed like?
Let's see. I started watching Charmed back when it first started with my mom and my daughter. And of course, that's how I got interested in it, was because we were all watching it together. I'm a huge Charmed fan. Obviously, I've had a collection going on for quite some time. So I found out about the books and I started collecting the books, and each one of them gets better and better.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad. Yeah. This one is called Inherit the Witch, and it has season 5 promo pictures. I saw there was an alternate cover of this where like Paige was in the middle and everything, but this is the normal one with Phoebe in the middle, and then Paige on the left and Piper on the right. It's got some candles in the background, look like birthday candles, and it looks like there's like some kind of spell parchment in there as well. And then the tagline says, "Some birthdays are more magical than others." Back of the book says, "On this, a young girl's birthday hour, we call upon her inner power. An ancient calling has been switched. Now bring back magic to this witch." As the Charmed ones know, it's difficult to adjust to the ideas of having powers and saving innocence. That's one of the reasons that their Grams bound their powers until the sisters were ready to receive them. In fact, many witch clans keep the powers of their young dormant until the recipient of the power reaches a certain age. In Juliana O'Farrell's clan, that age is 13, the exact age of her daughter, Lily. By the day after her 13th birthday, though, Lily's powers haven't manifested, and Juliana's worried that a demon may have stripped her daughter's magic. Enter the Halliwell sisters. But Lily's too much of a typical teen to welcome witch chaperones. She'd much rather sneak out to hang with her rebellious friend Drew. Could Drew's bad behavior be related to Lily's missing magic? It's going to take the power of 3 to get to the bottom of this adolescent angst. Boom. This was published March 2nd, 2004, and then reprinted May 4th, 2004. And it's written by Laura J. Burns, who wrote 2 of the stories in the Seasons of the Witch book before this. And it's supposed to take place between Room Raider and Witch Rain Now. So the last 2 episodes of season 4. I'll have you start with the prologue then.
Okay. A young-girl witch performs a spell asking for aid. Before a blurred picture of Halliwell Manor appeared, she wonders if the witch and her daughter would be safe there. I thought that was a very interesting, of course, it grabs your attention of what's going to happen next.
It's a pretty nice opener because you're just kind of left, trying to fill in the pieces and like, ooh, somebody's doing magic. Ooh, they're at they see the manor. What does they have to do? What does that have to do with anything? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So chapter 1, it's bright and early and the doorbell of the manor was going off. Piper had just gotten out of the shower and she was just like kind of frantic and getting ready. She's like, can somebody answer the door? And nobody was there. So she's like, I'll get it. When she does answer it, there's a woman there and a young girl, her daughter. And then the daughter's like, are you one of the charmed ones? I'm like, whoa, that's kind of a big statement to make right away. But sure.
It was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, so Piper's like, okay, who are you people? What do you want with me? And they say that they're Juliana and this is her daughter Lily, and they're both witches. And she's like, prove that to me, please. So Juliana, she picks a twig off like the bush nearby and she's like, I'm gonna start this on fire. Boom. And Piper's like, oh, that will work. So she's like, come on inside, let's have a chat. Juliana tells Piper that in their family, a witch receives their powers on their 13th birthday, and Lily just turned 13 yesterday, but does not have her powers. So they're like, what's going on? Lily's crying. She's like, I was supposed to have my powers. This is so unfair. Paige wanders in then, and then Juliana continues and says they have one enemy named Gortag, and this Gortag has been hunting their family for 6 generations because one of their ancestors imprisoned him for like 50 years and he's really mad. So he's just been like killing their whole family. I'm like, wow, that's a horrible thing to have to go through. Sure.
It is for so long and have to hide.
Yeah.
So many generations.
I can't imagine. And then like all of their history too. They never wrote anything down. They don't have a book of shadows like the sisters do. They just have an oral history. They just tell stories word of mouth and they keep it all secret. And then
can you imagine having to keep all those?
I know. I mean, I have a pretty good memory, but that's a lot of years worth of stuff.
It is.
And then she explains that a mother and daughter witch are the only way to vanquish Gortag. So they have this whole set of rules, and Gortag knows this. So he put a curse on their family line so that a female witch in the line can't give birth to daughters. They only give birth to sons. And this was a little convoluted for me. I was just trying to wrap my head around it, but I guess it works. I'm like, okay, so they can, they have sons, they can marry a witch, and that witch won't be their daughter because it has to be it's weird. But anyways, pretty much they don't have the right people, the right family dynamic to vanquish him right now. But Juliana thought she found a way around it by countering it every night with a spell. She's like, I'm going to say this spell, and then I'll have a daughter, and then we'll be secret, and we'll vanquish him someday. Juliana and Lily are the last of their family, too, which is kind of sad because her brother just died protecting them. So these 2 witches are the very last of their family. Like, oh, that's horrible. I can't believe it.
It is.
It's so dark for like a book for 14-year-olds, but here we go. Paige tries to bond with Lily as she scours the Book of Shadows, and Lily says that she has a best friend, a girl named Drew, who her mom allows to hang out with them as long as she wants. So that's nice. They're like, okay, you can have a friend, sure. But Paige wonders why Juliana would allow an outsider to be around them so often. She's like, I'm suspicious. Then the group casts a spell to locate Lily's powers. So like, if they're missing, let's try to track them down with a spell. A light appears and it goes up to Lily and then moves down her body and then fizzles out. So they're like, oh, Piper's like, oh, I guess your powers are gone. We don't know where they are. Sorry. And that's the end of that chapter.
Chapter 2, Phoebe arrives home after a jog. Paige immediately shoves the Locator spell in her face and tells her to read it with them. And of course, Phoebe's like, well, gee, how about welcome home?
Yeah.
Well, hey, what's going on? That
Thanks.
would be nice.
Right.
And of course, Phoebe was always thinking, was wondering, should we trust them? Was the mom trying to scam them? And so she calls for Leo, who orbs in and it introduces themselves to Juliana. Juliana seems annoyed that Leo is a white lighter and very dismissive. Now then we find out why.
Mhm.
After Leo is up to speed, he goes to the elders. Piper stays with Lily while Phoebe and Paige try to summon Gortag at Julian's place. Piper invites Lily to make a vanquishing potion with her. Lily is
Insufferable.
she's just a mad young little thing. And of course, if we all remember when we were 13,
Yeah.
we were all just so pleasant to be around.
Yeah. She's just kind of like a bratty kid, like, but typical, it's like they just get annoyed at everything. They're not excited about anything.
Yeah. And wondering what's going on and just,
Yeah.
So Piper tells Lily that her mom never told them that they were witches. And that goes back to what we're talking about, how they're about their powers. Maybe so they wouldn't be in danger. Lily says her mom just wants another witch daughter to fight Gortag. And so that's where that whole feeling comes in of not really being her daughter, just wanting her to be that witch and not really understanding. Of course, that's being a 13-year-old.
All right.
So Lily wonders if she'll ever get her powers and if they'll ever be strong enough. Moments later, Piper looks around to find Lily gone. She calls for Leo. Leo tells Piper that the elders will not help Juliana or Lily because Juliana refuses her own white lighter assistance after the rest of her family was killed. She blamed the elders. She renounced them, and they are staying out of it until she comes to them on her own.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is a huge deal. Yeah.
She hates the elders, which I'm not a big fan of the elders either. So I'm like, you hate them. Why not?
Right.
But
exactly. And then just, I guess the whole point with that was too, that kind of annoyed me about them is, so you're just going to leave them hanging, just the daughter and the only ones that are left in their clan just by themselves. Of course, they're going to be angry. You're the elders. You're supposed to still come to a medium. You're still supposed to come with compassion.
They're like, yeah, we're not gonna help her unless she asks for it. Like, okay, thanks. Elders are dicks, right. But thanks.
So of course they went looking. Leo and Piper went looking for Lily, and Leo was able to sense Lily and an orb to her. Piper stops her in her tracks. Lily's friend Drew is with her. Lily was going to run away with Drew because Drew dyed her hair blue and was afraid of getting in trouble. They all walk back to Drew's apartment. Piper talks to Drew's mother, Miss Elson, who seemed pleasant one minute and rude and uncalled for the next. Miss Elson thanked them and shooed them out. Piper's suspicious. Piper and Leo take Lily back to the manor.
Drew's parents just seem a little off. Piper's like, I don't know about them.
Yeah, I found it very weird and very odd because at first they were nice and pleasant, and then they're like, nope, you got to go now. And then locking Drew in the bedroom and of course, that goes into more detail later on in the chapter. So
yeah, we'll find out what that's about. So chapter 3, Juliana, Paige, and Phoebe arrive in Juliana's house. They form a crystal cage. We know that's the very charmed thing they do. And then they perform a spell to summon Gortag. And I thought they were going to summon him into the cage, but they don't. Like,
yeah, I thought that was kind of weird too.
You could have stood right in front of the cage and be like, okay, we're going to say a spell and he'll come in there. But no, he arrives outside of the cage. But Gortag arrives and he looks like this little tiny little devil. He's like a little kid in a Halloween costume of a devil. Their description was pretty funny to me. I'm like, okay. It's probably really cute.
Yep.
But he's like, so he arrives and he's like gloats and he just seems very full of himself, and they try to lure him into the cage to try to get him in there. And Gortag looks at Phoebe and then commands her to protect him. And then all of a sudden, Phoebe is now compelled to protect Gortag, and she kicks Paige to the floor. So he's pretty powerful. He can just look at you and like control your thoughts. That I'm like, all right, this is, don't take his size for granted because he can really get you. So Gortag eyed up Juliana, knowing that she was an O'Farrell, and he's just like, oh, you are an O'Farrell. I thought I killed you all. Oh, so he's like really antsy to get her. And Paige pinned Phoebe down while Juliana prodded Gortag with a poker, like a fire poker, until he was inside the crystal cage. It's like, now you're trapped. Paige frees Phoebe with a short spell, which we'll read at the end. And so now Phoebe is back to normal. They all resist looking into Gortag's eyes now, so they know what he's about. So like, don't look him in the eyes, and they don't want to be controlled. Juliana confronted and questioned Gortag now, but inadvertently reveals that Lily is her daughter. She's like, "Oh, you have a daughter, and her name is Lily. Oh, well, I know who to go after now." It's like, you're so stupid,
Right?
but she's like, "Oh
You've been
no,
hiding for how long?
right?" It's like, "What have I done? Oh no, I told him everything." And then Gortek gloats that he is telepathically linked to many others, and now that he knows about Lily, they all know about Lily, and they'll be on a mission to go find her and kill her now. It's great.
Chapter 4, terrified at how powerful Gore-Tex seems to be, Phoebe, Paige, and Juliana get in the car. Phoebe thinks they will need Leo's help, but Juliana is still bitter because her white letter would not save her brother. At the manor, Piper and Leo arrive with Lily. Gore-Tag is there and lunges at Lily. Piper stares Gore-Tag down briefly, then blows him up. Since they don't know what demon he was, Lily asks if she can try to find him in the Book of Shadows. Piper allows it. Piper starts to make a salad, but Phoebe calls and begs Piper to check on Lily. Piper hurries to the attic and finds Lily escaping again out the window with the Book of Shadows. The Book of Shadows pulls Lily back because it cannot leave the manor. And if we remember correctly, it's spiritually protected. It's one of the things that cannot leave the manor no matter what. So Lily drops the book when she sees Piper try to freeze her and flees. The book floats back onto the podium. Piper heads out after Lily. Phoebe drives with Paige and Juliana. Phoebe still is feeling odd after being controlled by Gore-Tag. They see another red demon Gore-Tag jump onto the hood of the car. Juliana sets him on fire. Gore-Tag laughs as he poofs away. They begin thinking he is jumping from body to body. Piper arrives again at Miss Elson's house looking for Lily. Miss Elson tells her neither her or Drew are there. Piper began to search the apartment. Miss Elson came and told Piper again, Drew isn't here. Piper nervously exits the apartment. Phoebe calls and informs Piper that Gore-Tag is after her, has multiple bodies, and she is in danger.
Yeah.
I think that was the most interesting with the demon jumping from body to body. We saw that in the movie or in the show as well as how the demons can control the bodies just from one to another. So I feel like how they interacted the movie with the book when it came to the demons like that.
Yeah. And there's some interesting stuff. I'm going to come back to the Book of Shadows thing at the end, but I have some interesting notes about that as well. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, you vanquish one and it just appears. Another one appears. So it's like, And this Gore-Tag, he's ever so confident all the time. I'm like, well, we can't shake this guy. Chapter 5, Drew and Lily hide in a library and stress about how they're going to dye Drew's hair back. Yeah, they're still freaking out about this blue hair thing. I was just reading this. I'm like, oh my God, only a 13-year-old would be like this. I'm like, just dye your hair. Right? But, we didn't know the circumstances yet either, but it was just like, okay, typical 13-year-old problems. Drew said she's going to steal some hair dye.
Yep.
And Lily got nervous about it because, that's something a 13-year-old would do. She was like, I don't have money. We just got to dye it back so that my mom doesn't get me in trouble anymore. But Lily gets nervous, but she's like, I don't want to steal, Drew. Why would you do that? So Lily's just kind of like a little off put by that. And Drew's like, fine, if you're not going to help me, I'm just going to leave. What a friend you are.
Right.
Juliana is furious that Lily is missing and a demon is after her. She's like, oh my gosh. She gets back to the manor. She's like, where's my daughter? You lost my daughter again?
Yep.
Leo senses Lily and Juliana goes with him to get her back. So this is a step up. She's actually going to go and take Leo's hand and orb. So she is, it just shows that she cares this much about her daughter that she's willing to collaborate with White Letters now.
Exactly.
Phoebe and Paige tell Piper about Gore-Tag and how powerful he is. Phoebe is worried about what he saw when Phoebe is worried about what Gore-Tag saw when he was in her mind. She's like, I don't know if he could read my thoughts. I don't know what he can do. This is getting scary. Phoebe stays home and works on a vanquishing spell now, while Piper and Paige orb to the library. Lily now sits in front of the library. She's like on the steps outside of it, and she's just thinking about her powers. She's like, do I want these powers? What will it be? Because she's just thinking about all the possibilities. Like how scary it could be, if it would be really cool. And then Drew showed up just behind her. She comes out of the library, and then Leo and Juliana orb in right in front of them, like behind a tree. So everyone's coming together outside. And then Piper tells Paige that something is off about Drew's parents. So she remembers about that. Piper looks out the front doors of the library to see Leo and Juliana being attacked by Gore-Tex. So Piper and Paige are inside the library. Leo and everybody else is outside of the library. And then like, oh my gosh, they're outside. Let's go.
Right?
So Piper shows up and she blows up Gore-Tex. But they're soon attacked by more Gore-Tex. She blows one up, another one comes, and they fight it, another one comes. And she notices like a squirrel running around in the yard, in the outside of the. She's like, "Okay, there's a squirrel there. Interesting."
Right? Yeah. Nobody thinks anything about it. They're just like, okay. They just keep trying. She just keeps blowing them up. And
yeah, when I read that, I was like, "Why is this? Why are they focusing so much on the squirrel?" So I'm like, I guess it's important. We find that out later, but. Leo orbs the girls out. Yeah. So now there's all these Gore-Tex are coming. Leo orbs the girls out. She's like, we just got to get these children out of here. While Piper and her sister vanquish the last of the Gore-Tex that are coming. And then they get out of there before onlookers ask questions because they are technically outside and in public. So like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
You have a whole Shaq's news at 11 moment.
Yeah. Yep. Then chapter 6 went into the sisters cast a spell around the house. Lily is crazy worried about Drew and wants to find her. The sisters summarize that Gore-Tex has endless bodies, but he can only use one at a time, which is a good note for them to have for a vanquishing spell.
Mm-hmm.
Phoebe thinks he can control two since she was controlling her and the body that he summoned. Piper agrees to go back to Drew's apartment to talk to her parents to make sure she is okay. Piper arrives and Mr. and Mrs. Elson are cold and annoyed at first, but then sweetly welcome her to check Drew's room. They lead her in, then slam the door shut, locking her in.
I was like, all right, Drew's parents. You're really classy people. You just locked
That gave me my first intuition that they were demons, because I was like, why would they lock Piper unless they knew Piper in a room? Yeah. And that was just to keep her distracted and away from the actual, person that they thought they wanted, which was Lily.
Yeah. So, I was like, all right, thanks.
It was very weird because she couldn't even, she
couldn't do anything. Yeah, she couldn't call Leo. So something was off, and just red flags.
Yep.
Chapter 7, Lily tells Paige what they did on her birthday in preparation for her power. So Lily is going over all they did that day on her birthday, and they made sure they were safe. They got their circle ready. They said the spell to receive her powers. And then Lily also admits that Drew was actually there on her birthday too, in her room that day, and she told Drew that she was a witch like years ago. She's like, yeah, I'm a witch. And so Juliana, her mom, doesn't know. Juliana thinks that she's been keeping the secret this whole time, but Lily trusted Drew. She's like, I had to tell her about my life. Right. Paige suspects that Lily isn't telling her everything she knows about Drew. So Paige is just kind of like, I need to know more. Later on that day, Drew said that she liked Lily's blue sweater and her hair just turned blue. So now we know that they didn't dye her hair blue. She just it just turned blue like magically. And so twist, that's an interesting development.
Yes.
So Paige now believes that the forces of evil are using Drew to try to get her to misbehave enough in order to corrupt her to evil, because she remembers her window of opportunity when she first got her powers.
24 hours.
So she really loved the whole 48-hour window for when they can turn them to evil. And so she's like, they took my boyfriend, the source took control of my boyfriend and tried to make me do evil things. So I don't trust this Drew. I bet she's trying to make you do evil things.
Yep.
And right now they're trying to convince Lily that her powers don't work. So Paige thinks that Lily does have her powers, but they're just making her think that she doesn't. So it's making her not have access to them. Drew watches Piper from under the bed. So the room that they locked Piper in, Drew is actually in there. She was hiding under the bed. She's like, oh, well, Piper's in here now. And then Piper heard a noise from under the bed where Drew was, and then she's like, okay, where are you? What is it? And she flips it over, and then all she sees is a mouse. So she's like, all right, why? Creepy mouse, okay. And then
that was my thought too. I was like, okay.
Drew soon made herself known, and Piper realizes that Drew was the mouse. Whoa! And then she realizes that Drew was probably that squirrel she saw earlier too. So now we see that she has powers. Drew has this power to change into animals, shapeshift into animals. But Drew doesn't know how she does
It's
it.
pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It is like that's a fun power up. Like you're an anamorph over here. Like and she's like, I don't know how I do it. It just happens and I just, I can't control it. Piper tells Drew, she's like, my sister once became a dog. I was like, yes, reference that show.
Yep, that was great.
Piper thinks Drew got Lily's powers now instead. She's like, so you must have Lily's powers. It must have gotten to you somehow. So we need to find a way to get those powers out of you and into Lily where it belongs. So she tries to get out. She tries to blow up the door, but it just like blows off the paint off the door instead of actually blowing up the door. So she's like, this room must have a magical block on it, because she calls for Leo. He can't appear. So she's like, we need to get out of here. So Piper's like, hey, Drew, call for your parents and maybe they'll let you out. But they're like, is that woman still in there with you? We're calling the police. She's like, I have to use the bathroom. Hold it, tough. No, wait till the police come. I'm like, all right. These people are kind of, I'm like, I would not want them as my parents. Yeah, crazy people. But eventually, with some reticence, they do, and they come and unlock the door, and they're like turning the lock ever so slightly, and they're going to like have a little they're going to whack you if you get out. But Piper freezes them at the first opportunity. So they open the door and ever so slightly, and she freezes them. And then they sneak out of the room. They call for Leo. Leo comes and they orb out. So, escaped that fiasco.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially on, that was crazy. I was like, well, yay, they got out.
Uh-huh. Free! Be free! Chapter 8.
Yeah, Juliana tells Phoebe to cherish her family's history. Juliana reflects about how she was taught to live in fear. So much of her family has been killed by just one demon. She doesn't want that for Lily. Piper, Leo, and Drew orbed in. Juliana was sweet to Drew when they explained her powers and tells the truth about what Lily told her. Paige appears suspicious of Drew, claiming that she stole Lily's powers. Paige tells them that the source took over her boyfriend, who she trusted when she first became a witch, and now she thinks evil is doing the same for Lily's window of opportunity. This escalates into a family feud. Lily fights with her mom. Lily fights with Drew. Drew transforms into a lion and attacks Lily. That was pretty,
I can't imagine. That would be so terrifying too.
Drew does not freeze. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine just sitting there talking to your friend, 13-year-old, and all of a sudden she just turns into this huge lion, this huge, incredible beast right in front of you. And of course, at 13, having that uncontrollable rage and anger. And then,
Yeah.
And of course, Piper tries to freeze her. She doesn't freeze because, she's a witch. So Lily fight again, Drew does not freeze. Juliana stood square in the lines in line Drew's path and commands it to stop. She calms Drew into returning to her form. Drew cries and apologizes. Well, of course, she didn't want to hurt Lily. That's her best friend.
Yeah.
And so that was very heartwarming and touching too, was to see that. And again, to see the way Juliana was with both girls and very comforting and very loving towards both girls. I thought that
was really nice. Yeah.
It was.
Because, Juliana was just like, I know, because she thinks this Drew doesn't need, she's not used to this power and she thinks it's not meant to be her. So she's like, you know what, if we need to figure this out. And, she's just very willing to sympathize and be there for them, which is such a motherly thing. What a beautiful mother she is.
It is a motherly thing to do. Yes.
As a mother, of course, you get it.
And of course, as a mother, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I get having a 13-year-old. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was really nice too, because that's when they finally realized how Drew was transforming into all these different animals. It was based on emotions. Right. And so the whole basis of again, the charmed ones and everything's based on emotions. Everything comes from their emotions. And so that's why she was having a very hard, that's why she couldn't control it. Again, being young and not being able to control it. Then, of course, Lily says that that's supposed to be my power. I don't want it. She is terrified. And of course, she sees her best friend turning into this animal. She's like, I don't want that. No way.
And the fact that Drew can't really control what she turns into either. She's like, I feel something and I just turn into something that fits that emotion. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing for everybody involved, really. So,
Well, it would be scary for even an adult and
mhm.
having those emotions come out and not having that control. So definitely.
Yeah. Chapter 9, the sisters intend to cast a power transfer spell so that um, we can get Lily's powers back, or it belongs into her. But the two witches, for it to work, have to be equal and have to want to switch. They have to be willing, which I think, as a practicing witch yourself, it's all about the will, so that
It
makes
is,
sense.
yeah.
This is fun for me. Leo cleansed the space with a sage broom. I'm like, hell yeah, witch Leo, use that broom, use that
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so he's cleaning the space.
I know. I read that part and I was like, yay.
Yeah, you do witchy things. Go, Leo. Then like, unless they're trying, at least I think that's what they're getting at. Unless he's like actually like swept the floor with a broom. Although if it was a sage broom, probably would have fell apart if you didn't actually sweep the floor. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the what they're supposed to do. It doesn't even touch the floor. It's just cleaning the space. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Leo goes to check with the elders just in case they have any new information. And this is when Piper has a heart-to-heart with Juliana about Lily. Juliana knows her daughter must be strong, but wasn't aware of her fears that her mom only cared about her powers. And so, yeah, Piper tells Lily, she's like, yeah, she thinks you only care about, getting rid of Gortag and not really the child and everything. And Juliana's like, oh, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. She's like, that's so not true. And beautiful moment.
It was a very touching moment because that's when I guess the other side of the mom comes out too. Again, like you mentioned, I am a witch, so I raised my daughter to have that choice and to have that option. And so I felt that her mother was seeing it. She's not just a witch; she's her daughter too. And so that's something that you always want to get across to your daughter or your child or anybody, that you are a person before you're that. So
Right.
I thought that was a really good very good moment for Juliana, because I think it was it was an aha moment for her. I guess she didn't realize before.
Right. Because yeah, she does want to keep her safe too, because of they've had to do with this threat and it had been hiding. So there is a lot of business, a lot of just like measures you have to take. So it's sometimes hard to like have that human interaction, even though it's there. It's just having to juggle those two things. It's yeah, it's a wonderful dynamic. Lily and Drew are downstairs and they remember a story that they heard from the word of mouth ancestry stuff about in Lily's family history about how Gortag was once trapped in fire by all these ancestors, and it kind of slowed him down. So Phoebe and Paige think that this fire overloads Gortag's circuits in a way, and it takes him longer to regain strength. So it's like, we can probably use this to our advantage. And considering Juliana's power is start fires, maybe we got an even better advantage.
Right, exactly. Right, chapter 10. Drew was super excited to be in the witchy atmosphere of the attic. She wished she could have a life like Lily's. Juliana and Lily are having a long conversation in the garden. Leo arrives and says for a fact that the mother and daughter have to combine their individual powers to vanquish Gortag. Elders still will not help until asked. Everyone heads up to perform power transfer. Gortag burst through the front door. The protection spell wore off. Phoebe and Juliana face Gortag while the others retreat to the attic.
Yeah, so the spell that they put on the manor, they cast one earlier to protect it. Now it's like fading, so Gortag can break through. And this is where like the momentum is getting hyped up, because Gortag's coming through. He's got all his bodies. Phoebe and Juliana, Phoebe's pretty much down there because Juliana has to be up there to do the spell. So Phoebe is pretty much fighting them by herself. I'm like, well, go Phoebe for holding her own. That's
and
pretty
not
cool.
looking.
Yeah, you can't look. Yeah, you can't look in his face, and you have to fight.
And not,
stakes are amped up
She's
here.
trying to look down and still trying to do her fighting.
How difficult! It was so difficult. I mean, what a feat!
Yes, it was. It was so exciting. I was like, "Oh, how's she doing that?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And so because she's practiced for so long, Phoebe did, her martial arts and everything, being able to do that. So I thought that was a great way to bring that in too.
Yes. Leo orbs Juliana into the attic and they begin the spell to do the power transfer. An old woman comes out of this bowl of water in the middle of the room, and it's an O'Farrell ancestor, and she appears to be the judge of the transfer. She has final say about if it works or not. And she tells them that the witch herself must ask for the transfer. So Drew's like, okay, I have the power. So, but she's like, you know what? I don't want to give up the powers. And they're like, oh, okay, Drew, you're having second thoughts. You're not gonna give up the magic. Well, this is gonna hold things up now. Great. So Phoebe single-handedly battles the Gortag bodies again. Gortag follows Phoebe to the attic. Phoebe's like, okay, are you guys ready? You guys better hurry up. I'm having a hard time over here. Let's get this over with. And they're like, just kind of a hold up. We don't have people willing to do this. So things are in a really intense state right now. I'm like, I'm just feeling it.
Yep.
Gortag locks eyes with Juliana now and commands her to help him kill the charmed ones. Oh my gosh, it's getting worse.
It is. It is getting very intense.
It is. My heart is racing at this point. Piper freezes Juliana, but she fights through and sets the drapes on fire. And so they're just wondering, like, she's a good witch. She shouldn't be able to freeze, but I guess while she's under Gortag's control, she can.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that until just now because I thought, well, how could she freeze her? She's a good witch, but that would make sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
So she can freeze while she's under control. And as she's fighting through, she keeps freezing and refreezing her. Drew finally agrees to give up the power. She's like, okay, things are kind of crazy. I'll just do it so we can get through this. And then the old ancestor is just like, no.
No.
I was like,
no.
It's like, no, you can't. I'm not. And then it goes to the next chapter where it's like,
yeah, I had to hurry up to the next chapter because I'm like, why no?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So chapter 12, pages like, ma'am, excuse me? Like, I would be like, hello? Guma says only the one born to be a witch should have the power. She says Drew is her own kind, then dissolves away. Paige orbs Phoebe's flaming sleeve off into the water. Juliana starts the BOS, putting it on fire. Piper gets to Juliana and frees her with a release spell. Gortag commands Leo to protect him. Leo punches Phoebe, but Piper quickly releases him too. The charmed ones say the power of 3 spell to force Gortag into one body. Piper blows them up. Juliana thanks them for avenging her family, but Gortag reappears. The spell was useless.
So yeah, there's a lot going on in that chapter.
Let's go back. Yeah, let's go back to the part where the ancestor says only the witch can give up the power, and you're like, huh? And then no, she's their own kind.
Yeah, she's like, don't you think I recognize my own family? It's like, okay, I'm like,
yeah,
wait.
Was a good part too. I was like, I did that too. I was like, let me, and I had to reread. I mean, I'll admit, I had to reread a couple paragraphs. So I'm like, what? And then I was like, oh, that was a good twist.
Yeah,
that was a good plot twist.
A really good plot twist. Yeah, and I thought the page orbing just the sleeve off of Phoebe's sweater made me laugh. I'm like, that's kind of a unique thing. Sleeve.
Yeah. Right. You didn't need that.
Yeah, I like that. Was fun. That was a fun little read. And then but then when she starts the Book of Shadows, putting on fire, and then he starts controlling Leo. I'm like, this is getting so crazy.
Yes, it was. It was like there were so many things going on at once. You had to sit there and like, I mean, I couldn't put the book down. I was reading. It was just like, it was intense.
Yeah, action packed and twists and like, okay, this is amazing. Yeah. But and then the fact too, where that when Piper like blows him up, I'm like, that can't be the end of Gortag because you told us that they have to be vanquished by these people. I'm like, he is not gonna be dead. And like, why would you think it's dead? He's dead.
Exactly.
So I'm like, of course it was useless. All right, chapter 13. Gortag continues to attack, and he goes after Drew now. So it's like, he's like, oh man. Drew then transforms into a dragon right in the middle of the manor. I'm surprised they didn't blow off the manor, roof off or something like that, right in the attic. And then I'm like having flashbacks to Forget Me Not when Wyatt conjured the dragon. So it's like,
yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. So Drew transforms into a dragon. Just crazy stuff happening in this book. And then, but then she's like, oh, I don't want to be a dragon. No, I don't want to be a dragon right now. So she wills herself to turn back into a girl form. But then she figures, she's like, oh, I think I know how to control it now. Cool. Even if this power isn't mine, I think I get it. Juliana sets Gortag on fire. And then Lily and Drew in sync have a plan to like, oh, you turn to a dragon. I bet you can turn into other things too.
Yep.
So then Drew transforms into like this bird. They don't tell you what it is, but it's pretty obvious. He transforms into a phoenix. And then Juliana kept Gore-Tex on fire while Drew as a phoenix kind of went over him and she like kind of enveloped him in the wings and she could see his soul trying to escape. She's like, no, I'm going to keep you burning. I'm going to keep you burning. And so she's like, "Rrr." And then they just keep burning. Both Gore-Tex and Drew are eventually burned into ash together. She's like, I'm dying. It's okay. I will just burn you up and I will burn too.
Yep. It was very descriptive on that one.
Yes, but it was really funny. They're trying to keep that Phoenix thing a secret because I'm like, you're not gonna make that a twist for me. I see it right really early on what's coming. So
So chapter 14. Everyone tries to comfort Lily about Drew's death. Lily kept eyeing the ashes, waiting. Drew reemerged and flew out of the ashes. Juliana goes with Leo and she agrees to finally accept the elders again.
Yeah, she's like, yes, she's a phoenix. Haha, she's a bat. Love it.
Yes.
Born again from the ashes.
That's what I was just gonna say.
So yeah, that was cool. And then chapter 15. Chapter 15 is a doozy of a chapter too. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
They're at the elders, and Juliana is in shock because the elders tell her that Drew is actually her daughter, not Lily. Gasp! Oh my gosh, what? How could that be?
Right?
And then back at the manor, Drew admits that she actually said the spell to receive her powers too when Lily did. She was watching Lily say the spell. She's like, no, I actually said it too because I just thought it would be fun. But it worked for you. And the group figures for Drew to be Juliana's, they would have had to have been switched at birth. So how were they switched at birth? What's going on? Then the Elsons, Mr. and Mrs. Elson, Drew's parents, arrive to take Drew back, revealing too that they are demons. They have teeth that are sharp, and they go, "Arr!" And we want her back. Mr. Elson got very angry and advanced on Drew. Pepper went to blow him up, but Mr. Elson like shot this like glob ball out of his mouth, and it landed on Pepper's arms, and then like immediately like pulls her arms to the ground. I'm like, okay. That's pretty. I mean, what a cool trick you got there. All right.
It was weird.
So Piper is pinned to the floor from this gross spit thing. And they reveal that they have been keeping tabs on Julie, on Drew and Juliana, so that Juliana would never find her real daughter. So like we were just trying to make sure you never knew the truth. They're like, come with us. And Drew's like, no, I'm not going with you. And then Mr. Elson goes to her. He's like, peanut butter fluff. And then she's like, okay, I'll go with you. I'm like, what the heck was that? What does that mean?
I was like,
peanut butter fluff.
Yeah, I was like, what? That's weird.
I'm like, I could go for some peanut butter fluff. It sounds really tasty. I know it's very tempting, but still. Drew goes with them, and then Paige is like, you know what? I'm gonna go check my job. I haven't been there in a while. I'm gonna check my social service resources and see what they say about stolen babies from whenever the year this was when they were born. And Lily now has a lot to process because here she goes. She's raised her whole life to think she's a witch, thinks she's gonna get these powers, and now she's realizing that her mother isn't even her mother. But it must be a lot to take in. But here, all she thinks about is Drew, and she just wonders if Drew is okay because that's her friend. I'm like, how mature is that?
Right. Yep, I agree. I thought, I was like, that's true friendship for you.
Yeah, and she must be going through so much right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then still be able to put all that aside, like you said, and think of her friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lily wonders if Juliana would still love her, even though she's not her daughter anymore, which, valid. And then Juliana walks in. She's like, oh, yes, you are my daughter. Oh, my heartstrings are being pulled. So sweet.
It was. Yep.
Because, like, we may not be biological, but I raised you. I loved you. I know you. Like, you are my daughter. Always and forever. Like, yes, beautiful.
Yes, it was. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Phoebe thinks Drew was magically brainwashed to be conditioned by phrases. So they think like, oh, he can say these things. It's like a dog. You say this thing and I will obey.
Yep.
So great. Juliana and Lily remember their oral family history and realize that the Elsons can be clangoids. And like, clangoid? What's a clangoid, you ask? Well, let's see. Clangoids are baby stealers that feed off of the life essence for years. So they steal babies and raise them and keep them and slowly just like feed off their energy to live. And the more powerful, the witch, or even if it's not a witch, but the more powerful they are, the better they do, the more stronger they are. So, okay. Leo senses Drew in a jewelry store. They orb there. I guess they want, Mrs. Elson is like bitter because there's a jewel there that was like owned by one of her enemies, and she's like so trivial that she wants to keep it as like a trophy. So come with us, Drew, and steal this jewel because I love it so much and I will gloat. So they orb to the jewelry store, and at the store, Piper, Juliana starts a fire, and Piper goes, fire! And then they get all the patrons out of the jewelry store, and now they're prepared for a standoff. She's like, okay, all the innocents are out. Let's get these Elson demons.
Yep.
And then they go, like, here we go. And she like doesn't even care. She like blows up Mrs. Elson right away. She's like, bye.
Yep.
And they only need one alive because they want to find the phrase that will free Drew of being controlled. They think they need that phrase to get her back. Lily finds Drew. So Lily goes into this back room and she finds Drew in the back room. At this point, Drew was like morphed into a rat, like searching for the jewel. And she's like, Drew, there you are. And Drew's like, no, I have to steal this emerald. Leave me alone. Firefighters now arrive at the jewelry store, and Piper, she's like, you know what? We don't have much time. Tell us the phrase. We need to get this. But she's like, I have to do this. So she just vanquishes Mr. Elson with a potion. She's like, I'm going to throw this at you. You die. Hopefully it frees Drew.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't know, but I had to take a chance. And then Drew come out and like, I chose Lily. We're sisters forever. And like, so Drew is free. Drew is good. And that's the end of that. A month later, Paige finds out that Lily's birth mother had died of cancer. Sad tear. But that her birth father is alive and well. And he apparently, when the baby was stolen, they like cast a spell on the parents so that they would forget all about having a baby, which is pretty crazy to me too. To live your life knowing that when you had a child.
Yep.
But after the Elsons were vanquished, his memories returned. He's like, oh my gosh, I had a child. Where is she? Oh, it's just really crazy things are happening.
Then have a stranger say, hey, we know know your daughter. Would you like to meet her? I mean, after 13 years, well, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to have a relationship with her.
It was all crazy.
And then and then it ends with the Charmed Ones feeling good about bonding families. Like, we did get some good stuff today. And that's the end. So do you have any final thoughts?
Just mostly what we've talked about. I thought it was a really good plot twist of Drew being the daughter, and it was a really good ending when they found Lily's biological father. I was kind of hoping that they'd all get together and be a family, but the book didn't go that far into it.
Right. I mean, Juliana's single, just saying.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to put that in there.
Yeah. Initially, I was like very worried about this book because the author she wrote 2 stories in Seasons of the Witch, and I didn't really care for those. But I actually really had a good time with this book. I was surprised. This author kind of surprised me. I'm like, okay, you're getting into the flow now. I'm liking it. I did mention there are a few aspects of the story that I found a little kind of eluded. That irked me a little bit, but the momentum was really strong. There were really cool action scenes. Sometimes you never know who had the upper hand anymore. It was like, where's this going to go? I found it very engaging. And there's some deeper themes on loss and trauma, insecurities and family. And those little moments were really appreciated. So
they were. I thought those little details made the book more, for me anyway, wanting to read it more and just not really even put it down. And I had that problem, even though I would sit there and I'd read chapter after chapter. And then before I knew it, I'd be like, oh, I do have to work tomorrow.
Right. And then I had some just general thoughts. I'm like, So what's the difference between a witch with pyrokinesis and a fire starter? I think they're pretty much the same thing. I think a fire starter is just a witch with a really advanced firepower.
I don't think there is a difference. I think they are the same.
Same. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Right. Because think of the fire starter, and the one episode with Charmed, and he did the same thing. It was based on emotion, and she does the same thing by starting.
Right. And Christy, we know Christy,
Yeah,
in
it's
season
the
8,
same thing.
is a fire starter as well. We know that, and she's a witch. So yeah,
Yep.
it's just a very particular
Yep.
kind of witch. So
Yes.
at first, I thought Gorteg was like manifesting his essence into the bodies of people who he hypnotized before, who he got into the head. I thought he was just taking over those people and making the bodies, but it actually wasn't that. So he like goes to another dimension and makes a new body and then comes back. But I think it might have been more interesting if he like possessed the people he hypnotized.
Yeah, I thought that way too until they explained how he was getting these other bodies. Because I thought the same thing until they went into description of how he was doing it. Because I too thought that he was just swapping bodies right like that, but I didn't realize he was actually going to a different dimension and doing that. I thought it would be more explainable if he was doing the same thing, being able to jump from body to body to whoever's mind control he had.
Yeah. So going into put that in my canonical hat now.
Canonical.
So canon things that I realized about the show or had like thought about the show. So we'll get into that. Are there any issues that make it not canon for you, or any like throwbacks that you appreciated?
I really liked, as we went through the chapters, we kind of thought about all the movies that they associated with, and I liked that a lot because it just, as you're reading the books, you're going through it in your mind and imagining these things happening. And again, going back to the fire starter, going back to the body switching, it just reminded me of the different movies and aspects of the Charmed ones, and the draining of the energy and so on and so forth. So I think being able to take all their stories and being able to combine in the way that they did in the book was a really good aspect.
Yeah. Would you have wanted to see
and
this?
Of course, I love the dragon.
Yeah, right. Would you have wanted to see this as an episode? Do you think it could have fit in the storyline in the show at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, do you remember was the third witch? The one where it was actually Prue and Phoebe and Piper, and Phoebe was helping the younger witch. So it kind of reminded me of that combination too. When she was being controlled by somebody evil, but she was helping the young witch come into her powers.
Oh, you mean the fourth sister?
Do you remember that episode?
You're talking about the fourth sister?
Yeah, the fourth sister.
Okay. With Aviva and Kali.
I thought that was so, and now I kind of was looking at that too because she was young and she was impressionable, and so that's how I was also looking at the book. I thought this would have been a really good addition to it, but again, the book was very detailed. I was getting excited, especially towards the last chapters. I couldn't really put it down. It was very interesting, and it really helps your imagination to really grasp the concept of the Charmed ones and mother and daughter bonding.
Very nice. Yeah, I would have loved to see this as an episode, and I do think the concept is really intriguing. It's nice to see other magical witches in a substantial position, because a lot of times witches show up and they're just kind of like be there to be made fun of or to be killed. So this was nice to just have them be there.
And it was a really good learning aspect as far as the family line and the daughters, and just the compassion, because we were talking about how everything that Lily was having to deal with, but her whole thought was, we need to save Drew, we need to help Drew. And then Juliana saying, I'm not going to leave you just because you're not my daughter. I mean, that was a whole learning aspect, I thought, too. And so I agree with you. It would have been an interesting movie to fit into one of the episodes of Charmed, I think.
Yeah. I think it's fitting. It's kind of funny, too, that Drew turned into a phoenix, considering that this family has similarities to like the Phoenix line of witches that we see in Crisscross with Bianca and her mom. I'm like, interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. I thought that was a good twist too, and adding in those two. Yep.
Yeah. And with this, because this is supposed to take place between season 4, episode 21, Room Raider, and season 4, episode 22, Which Way Now? And I think it actually would have fit really well in that spot because it reminds us about the journey that Paige went through this whole year about how she first became a witch. That comes through. And then we're getting, solidifying our family bonds, and we're talking about our ancestor histories. And so it's like, okay, we're this is our 1 year of becoming a witch. We're learning about who Paige is and who our ancestors are. And I think the themes would mesh perfectly well with what we get in Witch Way Now, because being around all those parental figures, Phoebe just lost the baby she thought she had was hers. Piper is about to become a mother. It would be a really nice bridge. So
I agree.
It would have fit really perfect in that spot, in that slot. Here's something I have about Canonical too, about the book. The book protects itself from evil, yes, but it did allow Lily to touch it, so she wasn't really evil. And the book's defenses do go off, but the novel states that it can't leave the manor, which I think isn't technically true, because it's a personal rule for them that it doesn't leave the manor. That's their thing. But we have seen it take it out of the manor before. They can take it out of the manor, but I think maybe you have to be a sister to do it, because see Paige, she took it to her office, or like when they went to the future, Prue took it to Buckland's. So it has been taken out before, but I think they have to have permission. Just kind of something to think about.
If we think about it, and if we remember, I think you are correct, because I think it was Under My Skin where their dad came back into their life, and he was saying, "You've got to get the book out of the house. You got to get it to me," because he knew he couldn't get it out. He had to have them bring it out to him.
Yeah, so, thank you for not morphing, episode 3. Yeah.
Thank you for not morphing. Yes. I will get my episodes right. You just put them up there and I'll tell you what they are.
Right. I mean, you know it. You know the series.
It's been a minute.
I got you.
I do.
But yeah, I was just like, okay. Just a little technicality that I wanted to point out there, because I think they can leave the manor, but it has to be, given permission, or, one of the sisters have to do it.
True, because they also took the book out when they went to Phoebe's apartment. In the last season.
Yeah.
On the last episode.
Right. So when they vanquished Gortag multiple times, because it's like, oh, I vanquished Gortag over here. I vanquished Gortag over here. It reminded me of like Shadow and Prue Witched. It's like, oh, I killed a demon. It's like, you too? Yeah, me 3. A warlock attacked me in the attic. Like.
Yep.
So I was like, I was having a little bit of
I remember that too. Yep. I agree with that.
All right. So now we'll get into rhyme time.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
This book had a lot of spells, so we're going to go through them quickly.
It did.
Did you want to do the first spell?
Mother Earth, heed me. In this hour of need, I seek solace. Summon me to aid in my trouble.
Meh.
Form a circle with crushed rowan leaves around the witch, then chant the following. The Mother Earth, heed me. That was probably the only thing I really liked about it.
Yeah, because it started had a good strong thing, but it's just kind of boring, just kind of blah. So no rhyme, no real scheme, and then not saying all things have to rhyme, but I don't know. It helps rhyme helps me to feel empowered. So I would like something that rhymes more. The next one was Metaphysical Locator spell. This was the one they used to try to track down Lily's powers or Drew's powers. The person with powers missing will stand in the center while witches form a circle with their hands. Goddess, your daughter stands before you, but her magic has fled. Help her find what she has lost, that she with her magic may be wed. They tried to rhyme. It's awkward. I don't like it.
It's a little awkward.
Especially that last line, that she with her magic may be wed.
One, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that part. I did like the first sentencing, Goddess, your daughter stands before you.
Yeah.
Because, with the witches, you do want to be one with the goddess. So I thought that was a really good line, but then I read the last one and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right.
A little off.
Next one.
And the next one is to summon Gortag. Fire and earth, hear our command. We summon a demon from the dark lands. Gortag, come. Again, it had a really good, powerful 2 sentences in the beginning, but then it says Gortag, come. It would be more, I don't know.
Yeah.
I summon thee, come forth now, or something that forth had come.
Right.
But I guess I get where they were going with that.
Yeah, I think this is the strongest spell so far because the first 2 lines are really nice. I like the language, and then they're like, "I'm lazy. Let's just finish it off."
Yeah, exactly.
Next one is the protection spell. This is the one they use to protect the manor. Power of the witches rise. We call on you. Come, bring your power. Protect our home. A stretch with the rhyme. It's not giving me anything. It's not giving me what I want.
I didn't really feel protected, but again, it started off strong, and then it just was like, that's it. It's like, okay, power of the witches, we call upon you. Come. It's like, okay, bring your power. Okay, protect our home.
Yeah,
I think it needs just a little bit more.
These spells they're not there yet. Just a little more effort.
Yes.
All right, next one.
Okay, to call on Ophara Witch's power. I will call upon you, element of 4. Unlock your secrets forevermore. A new witch enters the fold. Allow her magic to take hold. I liked this one.
Okay.
It was good. Just my thoughts. I thought it was good. It rhymed, and it actually had all the elements: beginning, what you're asking for, and the end. And that's usually how you want when you're writing the spell.
It does have all the components. The only thing I wish it would say, a new witch enters into the fold. I wish it had that into the fold, because I think that would make the rhyme much more.
Yeah. Much more better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. But if you add that, just add the word into, perfect spell.
Yes.
Next one is, this is the transfer powers ceremony, a ceremony to transfer powers. It says, a deceased member of the family line will be the judge of the transfer. Both parties must be willing to participate for the transfer to work. 2 circles will be drawn with a bowl of water in between them, and the 2 participants must stand inside the circles. Sun and moon, earth and water, smile now upon your daughters. Each one wants what the other holds. Reverse the powers, exchange their molds. And then a descendant standing outside the circle will recite the following. Ancestor witches, hear your daughter's plea. Send one to judge those. No, send one to, let me try this over. Ancestor witches, hear your daughter's plea. Send one to judge whose these powers should be. So I think it starts off really good. I do like the rhyme there. The descendant part is a little awkward with the language. Because send one to judge whose these powers should be messes with my head a little bit. I have to think about what are you saying?
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked how it rhymed. I liked the sun and moon and earth and water calling all upon the,
Yeah, that part's great. That part's perfect.
I thought that was really great. And the ancestors witches, hear your daughter's plea. Send one to judge those powers who should it. Yeah, I agree with you. It should have been a little bit more
just clearer, a little bit clearer.
A little bit clearer, not so tongue-tied, I think.
Yeah. Who's these powers? That's just a weird thing. That's just an awkward thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing tongue twisters today.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. There's so many spells on this.
There was. It was very interesting to see that. To bind Gortag to one body, demon of many bodies. In this form, we command you stay. Well, I guess it's short and to the point.
Yeah, I think I know why it failed.
Yeah, I could see that too.
I was like, no. And then the last one, this is the one they used throughout the book. This is the one that you needed to free someone from Gortag's control. Goddess, hear our call, release. And for the purpose of that spell, for what it does, that works for me. It doesn't have to be anything, just like look into your eyes, Goddess, hear our call, release. I think that's fine. So
yeah.
Next, we'll get into Best Betty rankings.
Seems almost anticlimactic after all this time, doesn't it?
It was the only way to get their powers.
And now I want yours.
Darkest forces, let it be. Hear my plea, bring life to me.
You can't run! Frozen! In fear!
best baddie. Right now, Orteg is my number one baddie. I made him. He quickly shot up to the front. He just beat Shax for me because he is, he's unassuming because you think he's small and weak, but he is super strong. He can, between being able to control people and then how he keeps appearing over bodies, I think he is a very formidable foe. And I really dig him.
I would say he's a very powerful demon because he's able to switch the bodies as quickly as he can. And the powers that he has, the mind controlling, I think that is what really grabbed my attention. And then finding out the body switching, I would probably agree to that.
Yeah. So next is a Grimoire Game.
What is this, some kind of game?
Grimoire Game.
Some people think this is entertainment.
This is going to be a very quick game. It's just one question for you. So this Grimoire Game, it's 3 truths and a lie. I'm going to say
I'm on the spot now.
Yeah. So 3 truths and a lie. It's just one question. I'm going to say 4 statements, and you have to tell me which one is the lie. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. So listen to them all first, and then tell me which one is the lie. Okay. So first statement. Over the course of the series, Piper, Phoebe, and Paige all die 9 times. Okay. Next one. Leo's name appears in an episode title 3 times. Next one. Shannon Doherty directed 4 Charmed episodes. And then the last one. In the show, the grandfather clock is only destroyed 6 times. So which one is the lie? It's hard, I know.
I think Shannon Doherty. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Because I thought she did more than 6, but maybe it was.
Yeah, I have Shannon Doherty directed 4 Charmed episodes is what I said here.
So I think she directed more than 4.
So is that the lie? That you're going to say that's the lie?
Oh, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch every single episode again. Not that that's gonna hurt me, but.
And then I have the Piper and Phoebe and Paige die 9 times. Leo appears in an episode title 3 times, and then the grandfather clock is only destroyed 6 times.
I don't think they die 9 times. Let me count. I would say the first one. I don't think they die 9 times. That seems an awful high for them.
Okay, so you think that's the lie?
Oh, itty mighty mo. Let's go with number. I'll go with number 1. I know it's gonna be wrong.
Number 1 is true. They actually all died 9 times through the course of the series. Yeah. It's kind of funny considering like Paige came so much later and she still ended up dying 9 times. But yeah, I don't have them all listed right now. But I could make a list, but I didn't feel like going through it. But yeah. And Shannon Doherty actually only directed 3 Charmed episodes. That was the lie. She only directed 3.
Oh.
It was, yeah.
I should have. It was my first one.
Right. It was Good and the Bad. It was Be Careful What You Wish For, The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed, and All Hell Breaks Loose were the 3 she directed. But yeah. It's okay. That was a really tricky one. I did really try to trick you.
Oh.
The last thing before we close is tips for future white lighters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
And this is the moral of the story. So what is your moral of the story today?
Moral of the story: families first, and protect your family.
Yeah.
So that would be mine of the book, right?
Right, of the book.
Yeah. Mine would be to put family first and to protect your family and just write stuff down too.
Right. Write stuff down. Don't be afraid. But
that would be my
cool.
Write stuff down. Don't be afraid to not do that. It'd be that.
But yeah, for sure. Family is definitely a prevalent theme in this book. And so my tip for future white lighters is that family bonds are something that are ingrained and immeasurable. They can form early on in our lives, or it can be cultivated over time. And I think this book encourages you to appreciate whatever time you have with both the family you're given and the family you create. So yeah, just appreciate every moment with whatever family you have. So,
Yep, exactly.
yes, we get it. We're on the same page. I love it.
Well, we do. That was really good. You should write that down. That was a good one.
Oh, good. There you go, people. Enjoy the lessons we give in the words of the witches. So we have reached the end. Thank you for joining me today with this beautiful book, with this wonderful story. Where can people follow you and find you on social media and stuff?
I'm on Instagram. They can look me up on Instagram or Facebook by my name. That's where they can find me.
Okay, cool.
Under Joanna Mung.
Joanna Mung. There we go. Well,
thank you, Kevin, so much for this opportunity.
Of course, yes. Well, and Spellworders, enjoy your holidays. Happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa to everybody. Happy New Year. We'll see you New Year's Eve for our P3 bonus episode. And yeah, you can find the podcast anywhere. Follow us at Words of the Witches on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Follow us at Words of Witches on Twitter, or email wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns. And we will see you next time. Your destiny still awaits. Bye.